guys, thanks for joining us. This is technically episode 8 of Carry Yarn podcast, and we are going to be doing something a little different today. We're going to be doing our first episode of color. So this will be our color series that we do. Teri's going to start you out with the 5 most basic, and then we're going to go from there, and it's going to get a little more detailed. So why we wanted to do this episode is because people don't quite understand or are confused by if something is tonal or variegated or long color changes, things like that. It can get a little bit complicating. Or complicated. And I have a lot of customers ask, well, what do they mean by that? My pattern says use this or use that. So it's one of the more common questions I think I get at the shop. And the more you know about this, the more you can pick out your colors and have success in your project. And you'll learn by doing as well. But we wanted to give you a brief overview. So Teri, you want to start out?
Okay, so the first thing that we are going to talk about is solids. Now, solids are very self-explanatory. But, so this is a solid color right here. Now, a solid is obviously just one color, one solid color. Now, this is more of a commercial yarn, and the way that I know that is because it doesn't have any variations in it, or variations of this one solid color, which means that it was dyed before it was wound in, or dyed before it was spun into yarn. So they dyed the fleece, I guess you would call it, the fleece, and then they spin it into the actual yarn, which is this. And that's why it is absolutely one solid color. This is absolutely one solid color. It does not change. So that is commercial yarn. Can do that because hand dyers end up with yarn that is already spun, and then they hand dye it. And this one, you can kind of tell here, which is hand dyed. And it is, there's variations in this color. See, there's darkers and lighter pinks. And I'm going to have a photo of this and you'll be able to see it a little bit better. But, so this is considered semi-solid, maybe more toward tonal. Because it is not absolutely the same. So this is tonal, and this would be a semi-solid, and some people even call it tonal. But what this is, it's all the same purple, and this is also a hand dyed. It's all the same purple, but they added things like a dark black to have it break. I guess you would call it the colors break or something, so that you get different tones of the purple.
Excuse me.
And a lot of people interchange semi-solid with tonal. So for me, I kind of myself, I say it both. I say semi-solid.
Kind of interchangeable, you mean?
Interchangeable in a way. Not, I mean, if somebody's going to be really technical, then this is more tonal. And a semi-solid is more like this, I guess. Because this has not huge variations. And this is a set. Wait, did I say that backwards?
I think backwards.
Backwards.
Start over.
Okay.
Not start over, but
flip-flop. So what was I saying? Okay, so this one
semi-solid.
is semi-solid, and this is tonal because they added the things to make it darker purple and a lighter purple. And this is hand dyed as opposed to.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Tonal is a light and dark variation in the yarn of the same color.
Correct.
Right?
Right.
Or Yes, or then semi-solid too, but they're kind of interchangeable. Is that what you're saying?
They're a little bit interchangeable. I mean, if you want to be technical, this is more tonal.
Tonal is more drastic.
More drastic.
Okay, gotcha.
Semi-solid is more like this. And this is really hard to tell. But here, let me see. This is even a semi-solid here too. Some of it semi-solid, but there is some speckling in here.
On top, right. They layered sometimes.
They layered. But that's what I got for that one.
Okay.
So those are very, very similar. And I could say you could definitely use this as a solid because it is, the variations in it are very, very small.
Okay.
But this, I would say, is you're going to see the variations when you knit with this. Now, as an ending project, like this is a tonal yarn. I think it's Malabrigo. So you can see.
They do a lot of tonals.
You can see the difference. Like this is not solid, solid, solid.
Right.
You can see that there are different hues of this grayish purple color in this project.
That's a good example, yeah.
And you could see it through the cabling and the ribbing and all that. So anyway, so those are tonal, semi-solid, and solid.
Okay.
Now we're going into variegated. Now variegated is different colors in one skein of yarn. So that would be like this. And then this is it put into a cake. Not this, but this is a similar color. But do you see how, I mean, I know you see, but I'm saying to the audience in general.
Yes.
This is definitely different colors all throughout it. So this is variegated. And then when it's caked up, it looks like this. And then when you knit with it, I thought I brought one. I'll pop something in there. What that would look like.
Yeah. We'll have pictures up too, like still pictures that we'll put in during editing.
So
it's interesting how, like, I feel like yarn has 3 different lives as far as what you see in the skein at the shop, and then what you see, what happens when it's caked up, and then it takes on yet another form once it's knit into the project.
Yes. And you have to be okay with that.
And it does change. It's interesting though how
it does. It definitely does. It changes the way it looks, the way it comes out. Like, oh, here it is. Okay, so back to that. This is the yarn that I'm wearing right now.
I was going to ask you, that's tonal?
It's the same thing, yes.
Nice.
Well, and this is a hand dyed. This is by the Dye Project.
Okay.
And it's in her colorway Frostbite because it's really pretty, so I had to say that.
Yeah.
But if you look at this, you can see the different colors because it's hand dyed. And so when she gets her skeins, she dyes them.
Or gray.
They're already in, they're already wound or spun into yarn.
Right.
So just the nature of dyeing will make it not an absolute solid as like in the commercial yarns that you can get, like, so because
so commercial yarns can just be more solid.
Right.
Hand dyes can too, I think, but it depends on how much saturation they get.
Right, exactly. And it's a little bit tougher. It's a little bit tougher. But I think that's the beauty of hand dyed, is that there's variation and it gives interest and just beautiful beauty.
We're partial to hand dyed.
Yeah, we're partial to hand dyed. Okay, so now the next one would be speckle. Now speckle would be something like this.
Pretty.
which is a hand dyed. And I think like there's a couple commercial yarns that are trying to do this, but, because it's so popular. But this is a speckle, and obviously that's a little self-explanatory. This is gray with a bunch of different specks of, and then this one is also a speckle.
Pretty.
And then you could see that this is a cotton and a speckle. And I have, what else am I looking at? And then, oh yeah, I wanted to show a project. So this is a sock done in speckle yarn.
It's beautiful. What yarn is that?
This is Lemonade Shop Big Girl Pants. I love Lemonade Shop, but I just love all these speckles in here. They're so pretty. Like they're just like these pops. So like this neon purple or pink right here, and then these blues, and I just love it. These are one of my favorite pairs to wear.
I think some people thought, I know some people thought that speckle was like a fad.
Right.
I don't think it's going anywhere.
Yeah, I don't think it's going anywhere either. And I love it. I think they're really pretty. The next, I hope we're not going too fast, but I think that's enough.
I don't think
on that one. Okay.
Good.
The next one would be self-striping.
Okay.
And self-striping comes in skeins similar to this. And this is Mustache Yarns. What is this? I think I've shown this before. The Dark Side of the Moon. I've shown this one before, and this is what it looks like skeined up. And then I have a pair of socks that are self-striped, and this is Nomadic Yarns in the Beatrix Lestrange colorway.
Oh, pretty.
And I don't know if you could see this, but there's also speckled. So it's it's striped plus speckled.
Right.
You can't get better than that.
And by self-striping, we mean that it's the yarn does it for you.
The yarn does it for you. So you're knitting, and I didn't. This is all one skein, like this, all one skein, and it just changes, and that has a long color change.
Right.
And I wish I had, and like there's another one right here, that is, and this is Knit Picks, and you could see it better because the way that this is put into a skein, you can't really see. But this, you can kind of see the color changing right in here.
Right.
Let me pull that out so you can see it a lot better. And this is a long color change, and then it changes into this one, and then this one, and this one. So that's that. And then this is a similar sock color.
Oh,
this is also Knit Picks. And so this is what, I don't have the rest of this sock anymore, but this is, or the skein, I used it all for the socks, but this is what it turned into. So it turned in from here.
Pretty.
Turned into that. So that's self-striping.
One thing I was going to say about self-striping yarn is that it's in a skein. When you're in the shop, you can't always tell that something's going to stripe.
Right.
Sometimes people will pick out yarn and they're like, oh, I really like this one. And they say, what do you think about this? And I go, this is great, but I want you to know it's going to stripe. And sometimes they go, and they don't want it to stripe. And sometimes they go, all right, that's cool.
But it also depends. Sorry to interrupt you. It depends, like how long or if it's going to stripe. Go ahead.
Right, like Teri's saying. So it depends on what you're making. Obviously, if you have a smaller circumference, your stripes are going to be thicker. So sock yarn generally is made to have stripes. Let's say, I don't know, this technical measurement of ish, right?
Yes.
Okay, and then let's say you made it into a shawl.
Right.
And your first parts will be thicker, and then it'll go, the longer, more stitches you get, the thinner your stripes will become. So it'll be turning to something totally different.
Right.
As also if you were to take long color changing yarn or self-striping yarn and get into a sweater, your stitches, depending on the size of your sweater, two people could make a sweater. One person makes a small, one makes a large. And they could use the same yarn, same pattern, and one will have thicker stripes and one will have thinner stripes. Right. So that's all things to keep in mind when you're picking out your yarn in the shop. And if you're not sure if your yarn stripes or not, ask your local yarn shop, and they will know right off the bat, or they can find out for you.
Right.
Because it's not always evident whether it does or not.
Exactly. And if you're online and you're not sure, you can always ask the dyer if it will. And they will describe. They should do a better job if they're not telling you that that's gonna stripe.
Yes, hand dyers that give good descriptions.
Yes,
on their websites or whatnot, but your local yarn shop will know as well. So
and real quick before we move on, there's also part of self-striping is also self-patterning.
Yes.
And these are kind of an example. Heather has better yarn that is self-patterning that she just got. I'm really jealous of.
Which one?
The meadow one. The ones that you're going to, the ball yarn.
Right.
Yeah, go back to episode 6 and you'll see her yarn.
All right.
But this is also patterning, and this is the Arnie and Carlos, and this is.
I was just gonna say, is that?
Yeah, and these are my forever, 2-year-old socks.
Yeah.
But you can see that they pattern because they have it's not just stripes, which would be like this. This is stripes, but then there's patterns in it. So
but it's all one ball of yarn.
It's all one ball of yarn, and it's all. Do I have the ball? No, I don't. I thought I pulled it out. But anyway,
commercial made.
This is commercial made, but it's patterned, and
some hand dyers do stuff like that too.
I know. I don't know how they do that.
Math.
That's crazy.
Lots of
math. I'm not about to.
That made me think of something else too, and we'll pop up a example of that, but there is something called faux Fair Isle in self-striping, which is, so Fair Isle is technically like stranded knitting. So they do have sock yarn that they make that looks like you knit Fair Isle, which is similar to what you just showed, which reminded me of it, but it is it looks like Fair Isle. And I have a sock sample. I have a sample will pop up. West Yorkshire spinners are really good at that too. Yeah. They're English, and it's a commercially dyed, but they are, I think, a smaller company.
Right.
They might be family owned. I'm not sure, but
yeah, we'll definitely pop that in.
Yeah, you can get patterns in your self-striping, which is fun.
That's totally cool. I've seen yours has actual scenes.
that one's kind of crazy.
Yeah, that one's really cool. And
I've never seen anything like that one, but
I've seen people do it with pencils. It'll look like a pencil, like an eraser up top, and I'll pop eraser here, and it's yellow, and then the toes are the lead.
I know exactly.
I've seen that.
I almost bought that one. I want to still get that one. Wouldn't that be cute for a teacher?
Oh, I know. To give to your teachers, your kid's teacher or something. That's super cute.
She also she has the matching. What's a notebook? Like a spiral notebook. So
it's white, but with
red blue line.
Yeah.
It's really cute. And then you could wear the pencil and the.
That's super cute.
Super cute. If you can snag a pair of those, you're lucky.
Yeah.
You can get that yarn.
Yes.
Okay.
So, yes, I think I'm done with my little presentation.
Okay.
I just dropped some stuff because I got yarn everywhere.
Okay, I'm going to start out with ombre. So ombre and gradient can be confusing to people. Two different things. I actually have, let's see. I have, this one is an ombre. This is a sock yarn. Ombre is when, actually, I think you should show your ombre. You have more of a true ombre.
Oh, this one?
Yeah, that one is, we'll put up a picture of a good ombre. But an ombre goes from light to dark, so it fades. And when I when I first learned about ombre coloring, it was on those cakes. You know, the ombre cakes
Yes.
people make, and they are so
Yes.
neat looking. Like they'll start with, it says it goes from dark to light, right? Technically, ombre. So they start with, like, let's say green, and then it gets a lighter shade of green. It stays in the same color family,
Oops.
but it goes through different shades of that color and then eventually fades to white. That's technically what an ombre is. Okay.
Okay, gradient
is colors that fade into each other. So it'll go from one color. It doesn't have to be in the same color family. They can be very different colors, but they'll fade into each other and then go into the next color and they blend into each other. Which is
different than striping, because striping stops solid.
Right. Exactly. This is more of a drastic example of it because these are opposite the color wheel, but this is a gradient. Okay, so like you have the orange, and then the orange is fading into the blue, and then it's going into blue more. Okay, so that is technically a gradient. Some could argue this part is marled.
Right.
Okay, we'll get into marled in a minute. But technically this is a gradient. And this is wool mice sock yarn into a tube there. So that's my example of that one. So it's different. It can be two colors that do it. Like that was basically blue and orange, different tints of them. It could be a ton of colors, but that's what a gradient does. It melts colors into the next, A lot of times it's several colors, and it just keeps going. And then sometimes in yarn, it'll repeat that. Maybe they'll melt 5 colors, and then it'll repeat those. You also see them in fabric, too. You can see it in fabric. So that's gradient. You have anything to say about that one?
Nope.
Okay.
I don't have any examples of that. I don't think.
Okay. Moving on. We'll just go straight to marling from there. Marling is when, usually when the yarn is spun, okay, and it can be hand spun or commercial. Here's an example of commercial marling. It's 2 colors, 2 plies of yarn, usually 2 plies of yarn that are spun together. So this one is 2 different greens spun together. So it's a light and a dark strand, and then they're plied together, which means they're twisted, and then they're made into this new color. So when you knit this, it marls up, which it'll look pretty similar to what it is here. I have an example of.
Here's another example.
Right, black and white marling. This whole shawl is knit in marled yarn. My husband felted this shawl a little bit by accident. We won't talk about that anymore, but so this is all marled yarn. This yarn's called Crazy, and it's made from scraps of their main worsted weight yarn. And this is, I'm forgetting the name of the company. I think it starts with an S. We'll put it up. But the yarn is Crazy, and it's in a
Shopel Wopel?
No.
Okay.
I forget the name. But every bit of this yarn is marled.
Right. So
that's super fun look. And this shawl is a Clapotis shawl. Slightly felted.
Doesn't look that bad. You could totally still wear it.
Yeah, I went through and pulled some of it apart. But okay, so that's marled. Here's the skein of marled like Teri showed. So marled can be any colors. It just needs to be 2 colors together. This is a wool folk yarn.
Yeah, black and white. This is wool folk as well. So soft.
Okay. I know, that's great yarn. you can hand marl yourself. That's a fun thing. We're not going to go into techniques right now because we're just strictly talking about color. But just to give you a quick example, you could take the solid and a white and achieve pretty much this.
Right.
By holding these two yarns together when you knit. These are different weights, but this is just an example, right? And so you can do manual marling. And when you knit, you don't need to do anything special. You just hold them together, and eventually that is what plying looks like.
Right. And you don't have to twist them together. They'll just do it on its own.
It just does it on its own, but I just do this to show you that you can achieve that on your own at home by holding two balls of yarn that are both generally solid colors together. But it doesn't have to be solid. It just depends on what look you're going for. Okay, so after marling, what I have written down is tweed. And Teri has her example of tweed. So tweed generally is a solid color background, and it has flecks of other colors in it. Okay, that's a great example of tweed. Can you bring it a tad closer?
Right. So this is like a swatch that I did, and this is it in the ball. But let me hold it up better. So this is a swatch I did. Ooh, it's a little dark. Let me see.
Can you tilt it back a little bit? There you go. Yeah.
And you can kind of see, I think in the ball, it would be better in the ball.
Okay.
Like this. This is Knit Picks, their City Tweed. And you can see, you think that they're flecks, but they're not. They're actually little nubs, I guess, or noops.
Well, they call them flecks generally.
Flecks, okay.
It's flecks of color. Right. So when you look at a yarn ball and you're like, I want to know what's in that. I'm not an aficionado on tweed, but what I do know is that, like we said, it's a solid color background with little bumps or flecks of different colors, and it can be any colors. Like any colors can be tweeded. Tweed usually refers to a fabric, right?
Right.
Like a wool fabric. But we're talking about yarn, obviously.
Right.
So sometimes when you see the label, it'll say Donegal on it, and that's a place in Ireland where the fabric was made. It's a certain kind of tweed fabric. Does it say that on your label? What is your label?
It just says City Tweed, CK.
Okay. And it won't always say that for it to be tweed. Right. I don't completely understand why some will say Donegal and some won't.
Maybe it's like champagne. You can only call it champagne if it comes from the Champagne region of France.
Irish wool, possibly.
Like Donegal tweed. Otherwise, you can only call it Donegal tweed. Yeah.
Sparkling wine yarn. So
Snobs.
We can look that up, but for our main intensive purposes, that's not super important.
No, it's not. You just need to know what that means.
Right.
So.
Okay. Good example of that. So the next one we'll go to, and this will be the last one for now, is heathered yarn. Yay!
Yay, heathered!
Okay. So heathered yarn is, here's a good example. Heathered yarn.
Wait, did I pull the wrong thing? I think
this is Swans Island. This is an American wool. It's generally wool, but it doesn't have to be. So heathered is when they take two solid colors and they blend them together, okay? So obviously this one, and it's generally is a gray, and it's not always a gray, but it generally is gray. So obviously this is like a gold mixed with a gray. Okay, and so then it became this color of heathered yarn. Another example you can think of is when you buy a t-shirt and it's heathered gray. Like, most people know what that is. They know that it's like not a solid gray and it's not a black. It's mixed in between. And then Teri's ball you're holding up there.
Yeah, I don't know if you can see it, Heather, but
you can't really see that it's heathered.
Yeah. Which is different than the marled, because the marled is very pronounced. You can
very distinct.
really distinct. Yeah, very distinct. And this, I don't know. I'll have a better picture and I'll pop that up of this actual yarn. But this is the I think this is Julie Aslan. Yeah.
So it doesn't have to be. I mean, a lot of times in the shop, I see a green. This is a popular one. Namara or Heather is a green with a yellow. And so the green is the prominent, and then the yellowy part in the back is less so prominent. And then that's a heathered yarn. I would say
I'm trying to see.
Also a blue and a red heathered together are popular. Like if you have a mostly red yarn and there's some blue undertone in it. Yeah, so that's heathered yarn.
Yes. I thought I had some more, but I don't.
That's okay. I think we got it.
Okay.
Hey, so that's our first bit, right?
It's our first color episode. We're thinking we're going to definitely do a second part, maybe a third, depending on if we find something else that we would like to talk about. But we forgot to say who we are. I'm Teri, and you can find me at Telola Knits, TELOLAKNITS on Instagram and Ravelry. And Heather, where can I find you?
You can find me on Instagram at Notorious1. That's KNITORIOUS and the number 1. And on Ravelry at Notorious-1, spelled the same way.
And you can definitely find our Instagram at Carry Yarn Podcast. That's CARRYYARN Podcast. And I'll put all that stuff right there for everybody. And I can't believe we forget to say our Instagram.
I know. So
for the podcast.
Yeah. Subscribe and like. And also there's a share button next to the subscribe button, I believe. So you can always share videos with other people who you think might like it. And we totally appreciate you guys. And I want to say happy birthday to Teri.
Oh, thank you. My birthday was on Wednesday.
Yeah.
And I'm going to show off my... Cindy sent me yarn. Look how pretty. Anyway, okay.
We'll talk more about fun
birthday acquisitions later.
Yes, we have some stuff to show probably.
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
All right, guys. Thanks for joining us.
Bye.